George is 51 and lives with his auntie Margaret. He's lived with her since he was 6 years old and they're very close. Margaret is 81 and has been in poor health for a number of years, which makes it impossible for her to live on her own.
I need him to hold me to get about. I can't get out of the house without anybody. I can't walk on my own and I can only use one hand.
George has a learning disability, but he helps Margaret with the things she can't manage on her own.
I help with Sunday dinner sometimes. And put clothes in dryer, washer.
Tidies things up.
Tidies things up. Yeah. I'll put and polish all around the house. Put curtains up sometimes.
Puts me washing in, don't you?
Washing in, washer for and dryer.
And gets it out.
Gets it out. And folds it up. I'll put it, make a bed. I'll put to keep safe.
Although Margaret can't physically manage some caring tasks, she continues to support George emotionally and to prompt and steer him through daily life.
Help him with his money, don't I? And he helps to spend it. Don't you? I read his mail for him, don't I? And tell him about it. And I tell him to change regular, but he doesn't.
Get a shave.
And get a shave, yes.
George worries a lot about his auntie's health, and this can make him very anxious.
He sometimes has these little panic attacks. And when he gets upset, there's no consoling him. Say just to put him right. Okay,
Because Margaret finds cooking difficult now, she and George often eat at a local supermarket cafe.
He likes going to Morrison's for his dinner, don't you? He don't know his way about, and when we're out together I show him different routes. What do you like then for dinner when you go? Eh?
The beef and ale stew.
Strawberries and cream.
George goes out to various activities, but he's always worried about whether Margaret will be safe on her own.
I worry about my aunt when I'm out, in case she has an accident.
Margaret has a personal alarm. If she needs help, she can press the button and the alarm service will respond immediately by alerting her emergency contacts or the mobile wardens, or by calling an ambulance.
When George goes out and I'm on my own, I feel very safe and secure with that, because it comes up on the speaker and I tell them what I need. And I suppose they come. We haven't had to yet.
Neither George nor Margaret like to imagine life without each other.
I couldn't manage without him. I'd feel lost. What about you, George?
I miss Margaret if she what happens.
Denise from the Older Families Planning Project has been helping George and Margaret with George's person-centred plan. This involves gathering lots of information about what's going well, what could be improved, hopes for the future, and how to make changes happen.
Hello.
The plan will make sure they have the support they need now and for the future.
Very well.
Plans are reviewed regularly.
Remember I told you I was going to come today and talk to you about the plan? I think working with older families is about looking at their life now, what's happening in their life now, both for the carer and the person with a learning disability, and helping them to think about what they want in their life to stay the same, and thinking about the future, you know, what they would like to happen in the future, and that's from the carer's point of view and family and the person with a learning disability.
I'm worried about getting lost in new places, so I need to go out with a friend.
I think what's different about working with an older family where there is a mutual caring relationship is that they're quite set in their ways. They've been so used to supporting and looking after each other, and they want someone to give them confidence and inspire them, because I think they are quite frightened sometimes about change, and maybe the only time that change is going to happen is when the older carer can't cope anymore or they eventually die.
Good idea. Now that is something that probably we really do need to look at.
So we're going to tramways, yes?
As a result of the person-centred plan, a lot has changed for George and Margaret. The wider family is pitching in more to support them. Margaret has her emergency alarm. Both George and Margaret have support from Crossroads Care, Sheffield, so that George can get out more. And they both have help around the home. George is clear that he wants to stay living in the bungalow in the future, and everyone involved in his plan is working to make sure this happens.
You even do the washing up now, don't you?
When we start with the person-centred plan, we very gently and obviously very sensitively discuss the fact that the older carer won't be around in the future, that they will eventually die.
And this is all about how you need to be supported, George. It tells people that are going to help you what you're going to need some help with.
It's very important that is part of the planning. It allows the older carer to focus on what they would want for the person with the learning disability. And we use that information as a big part of the person-centred plan.
Your social worker has now got some funding. You know, when we talked about getting some money for you to have your own support workers coming in and maybe helping you to do more for yourself, like cooking, looking at how you look after the house. I know you're doing that at the moment, but for the future, you're going to need some support to do that, aren't you? And it's not just about changing everything that you've ever done, George. We don't want to do that because we know that your routines are very special, aren't they? And you've got your routines about how you do things and when you do things, and the workers will try and help you keep to those routines.
Plans for George to stay on his own with support in an emergency and the long term have now been agreed in principle by social services. These plans will be reviewed regularly to make sure that they stay right for George and Margaret. Sadly, Margaret passed away shortly after this film was made. She was able to die at home surrounded by her family just as she wanted. The plans for George have been put into action, and he's being supported to stay living in his bungalow just as he and his Auntie Margaret wished.